Amid Egypt's catastrophic sovereign debt crisis threatening national bankruptcy with external obligations exceeding $161 billion, the nation's all-powerful army sits atop vast secret cash reserves reportedly surpassing the country's total foreign debt that it stubbornly refuses to share with a desperate civilian government. Middle East Eye's explosive investigation revealed the military hoards more than Egypt's entire crushing external debt burden concealed within clandestine dollar accounts, shielded from all civilian oversight and parliamentary scrutiny throughout Cairo's financial collapse. The military's massive dollar reserves dramatically exceed Egypt's total external debt obligations, currently towering at $161 billion as documented by international financial institutions, representing an economic nuclear option deliberately withheld from collapsing state coffers. Government officials privately told Middle East Eye correspondents that despite repeatedly missing critical IMF repayment deadlines amid sovereign default risks, senior army generals categorically rejected frantic civilian government pleas to inject emergency liquidity into the collapsing economy. Anonymous senior banking said, and I quote, "The government sought to borrow 3 trillion Egyptian pounds, $63.7 billion, by December, but domestic banks refused, citing limited liquidity. With no other borrowing options available, the government turned to the armed forces." Prime Minister Mustafa Madbali in December called Minister of Defense Abdelmajid Saka, urging him to help cover the latest IMF loan installment, but the plea was firmly refused. The military funds are real and physically held inside the country's 2 main state-run banks, the National Bank of Egypt and Bank Misr, yet remain entirely beyond the reach of civilian authorities. Unquote. Egypt found itself forced to humiliatingly miss a critical $750 million IMF loan tranche payment obligation, scrambling desperately to negotiate a delayed deduction agreement accompanied by punishing additional interest charges from the international lender of last resort. The nation's domestic banking sector has simultaneously exhausted all remaining lending capacity limits under Central Bank of Egypt regulations, deliberately leaving President Sisi's civilian government devoid of any viable domestic borrowing options during this existential fiscal emergency. Throughout modern Egypt, the military's sprawling economic empire operates shrouded beneath impenetrable layers of deliberate official secrecy, completely evading mandatory parliamentary oversight mechanisms designed for all other state institutions and ministries. Only President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi himself, alongside his innermost circle of trusted 4-star generals, are believed to possess authentic knowledge regarding the true astronomical scale and precise composition of the army's parallel shadow economy financial holdings. Controls major strategic exports including natural gas, fertilizers, and agricultural commodities alongside massive infrastructure megaprojects, lucrative land development sales, and all critical strategic imports sustaining national security. Dominates fully 50% of Egypt's entire formal gold refining and trading industry, quietly generating hundreds of millions in untaxed annual revenues flowing exclusively into classified military investment accounts. All gold export revenues generated through state-backed monopolies flow directly into segregated military accounts without ever transiting through Egypt's transparent national treasury or general budget allocations. Multi-billion-dollar commercial loans negotiated and secured explicitly in the military's sovereign name through state banks are systematically refused for civilian government repayment obligations by army financial controllers. Millions upon millions in daily revenue generated from nationwide highway toll gates, bridge crossings, and tunnel infrastructure concessions are systematically channeled directly into military accounts without budgetary transparency. The International Monetary Fund's comprehensive July economic assessment delivered its most pointed and scathing critiques ever leveled against Egypt's uniquely military-dominated economic development model, stifling all private sector dynamism. The multilateral lender formally warned that the army's monopolistic control spanning every profitable economic sector systematically pushes out legitimate private sector entrepreneurs alongside desperately needed foreign direct investors seeking market access. IMF economists asserted Egypt's chronically weak economic growth trajectory remains fundamentally crippled because healthy market competition stands deliberately distorted and suppressed through the military's cascade of embedded institutional privileges across the entire economy. These unfair structural advantages bestowed exclusively upon military-run enterprises prominently include sweeping tax exemptions on all commercial activities, guaranteed access to prime development land at administratively subsidized low acquisition costs, and preferential easy credit financing from captive state-owned banks. The IMF gravely warned throughout its 50-page country report that such deeply entrenched discriminatory practices fundamentally undermine investor confidence, distort capital allocation, and have catastrophically locked Egypt into unsustainable high-debt sovereign borrowing trajectories. Without urgently curbing and transparently reforming the military's unchecked economic power permeating every government ministry, the IMF explicitly warned Egypt faces permanent entrapment within a vicious self-perpetuating cycle of humiliating international bailouts and structural adjustment programs.
25 करोड़ गरीब गरीबी को परास्त करके बाहर निकले।
For the good of our nation, let's work together and let's truly make America great again.
The fastest news breaks.
Requested PM saying that look, you will have to speak to Putin and to Zelensky.
The biggest news makers.
The relationship with India is probably the most important bilateral relationship the US will have for the rest of this century.
The capital delivered quite an election result today.
Expert analysis.
The million-dollar question today is how to stop this dance of death.
Ground reports.
I'm standing at the crossroad of the Kumbh Mela. Behind me are more than 100 entry ghats.
Long-form interviews.
Exclusionary politics is reflected in Manipur case as well. You don't bother because this is a small state.
Deep dive into burning issues.
It's often said DRC could be the richest country in the whole world. It's because of what sits underneath.
Why exactly did the US topple the Sheikh Hasina government?
HT videos. We don't just break news, we break it down.